Hey, everybody. My name is Sam Brace. I am the Senior Director of Customer Education and Community, and you are about to watch and be part of the latest DevJams episode. So in this episode, we are going to be talking with John Reilly. And John, he is a developer that's typically been doing lots of things in the open source space. He is tied to software engineering. He's done some great stuff for his overall brand, understanding what he's doing in the development space, sharing his learnings with people on his personal website. And what we're going to be talking about today is work that he's done with a platform called Docusaurus, which is a great way to be able to create sites, which is a React-based site generator. And a lot of companies are moving to it for showcasing your documentation and being able to build that in quick ways. But what he's been able to do is create a plugin with Rehype and be able to incorporate Cloudinary into his overall Docusaurus presence. So this is a way that he can start being able to deliver all the images through Cloudinary. So that way they're optimized. They're also delivered through the content delivery networks that we work with, and many other amazing things. And John, of course, is one of many that we've profiled on this overall DevJams podcast, which is where we talk with developers who are doing inspiring, innovative, interesting things with overall development. And of course, probably tied to images and videos because they're going to be using Cloudinary for those. That's why we're here. So joining me for this episode is Jen Brisman. She is a technical curriculum engineer at Cloudinary and a prize team member of my team. So Jen, welcome to have you to the program and talk a little bit with John.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Jen, talk to me about why you think this is going to be a good program. Tell me about why you're excited to talk to John today.
I'm excited to talk to John because he's using Cloudinary in a pretty simple way, but it's a way that I found to be really creative, and it's not one that I've seen very often. So I think this is an episode where it's not such a specific use case. So many people can watch this and take their learnings and apply it to what they're doing. So I think this will be a really helpful episode.
I agree. And this isn't the first time we've dived into Markdown and to Rehype and some of the concepts that we've covered and we'll cover in this episode. But it is to say there's a reason why we're covering it again, because Markdown continues to be an amazing thing for people to be able to do, to be able to author HTML and be able to work with it in certain ways. Rehype is an excellent way to be able to start handling a lot of the processing parts of it. And Docusaurus seems to be one of the more interesting up and coming products that I'm seeing in the overall space because it does make publishing so lightweight. So it is to say that there's a lot of cool things that he's going to be doing with Cloudinary, as you're saying, not necessarily pushing the edges and boundaries of what our product can be doing, but it is making content authoring and content publication much more simple because I think with the techniques that John's showing, it's going to make it that much easier for people to really focus on the content and not focus on necessarily optimizing every single thing in a manual way. Just set it, forget it, it's done, it makes it simple.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he's really just hard coding in using Cloudinary as the domain. And I just hadn't seen that before. So I know I don't want to spoil anything. I know we'll get to it, but I'm really excited to welcome John to the episode.
Absolutely. And so one thing to point out before we jump into our conversation with John, of course, is that this is not the first time that we are doing our DevJams podcast. In fact, we've been doing this for years now. And you can see all of the great content that we put out with developers like John and many others at cloudinary.com/podcast, as you can see on the screen here. So simply going through, you can go through all of the various archives of the content that Cloudinary provides in the podcast space. And if you want to continue discussions and meet with developers like John, who are active members in our Cloudinary community, well, you just pop on over to the Cloudinary community. And that's going to be at community.cloudinary.com for you to be part of all those discussions. So you can ask questions, get to meet new people that are probably dealing with similar things that you are, which is working with images and videos and digital media. So we recommend those two spaces. If this is starting to tickle your interest a little bit, some of the things that me and Jen are talking about today. So without further ado, unless Jen, do you have anything else before I pop over to our friend John here?
No. We've been building it up so well. John, we're ready for you.
Excellent. John, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Hi. I'm John.
John, good to see you. So John, Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mentioned open source, I mentioned software, I mentioned plugin development, but of course, those are just little parts of the overall probably story that you have. So tell us a little bit about John.
Yeah, sure. My name's John. I'm a software developer. I live in London. I work for Investec, which is a bank. We do some pretty cool tech stuff. And I've worked in open source for like probably more than 10 years now, I'd say. And a lot of what I've done has been like around like the language TypeScript. I was a very like early adopter there, and like I've worked on a number of projects there that are particularly have been useful as part of a TypeScript's journey, like definitely typed and TS Loader, which brings together like Webpack and TypeScript and things like that. Yeah, one thing that I started doing also like kind of around at the same time that I started like open sourcing was I started blogging. And like originally I started using Blogspot, which was like having Google's like a blog platform, which was out there and like it was super easy to use. And I used that quite happily for like many years. But actually, like, interestingly, probably influenced by some of the stuff that we've been doing at Investec, which was like we're a very infrastructure as codey type place. I was doing like infrastructure as code in like my day job, and my blog was still this like just like HTML on someone else's website, and I was like, I should own my own content. And so I had this, and also I'd really got into like liking Markdown, like the years of like down the open source mines, not that I wrote like Markdown like a native, like better than I wrote anything else. And so it was the obvious way for me to write stuff. And so I started like reaching around looking for a way that I could take my stuff and move it like literally into code. And there was lots of things like around at that particular time that seemed to be like filling that gap. But the thing that was like most notable was Docusaurus. Partly because like it fitted like really well. But also because like, I looked at it, was like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. I've seen like lots and lots of Docusaurus sites like out there. And you realize that just like tons and tons of like sites that you know and use, like, let's say Temporal's site, for instance, they're built using Docusaurus because it's a very simple, tool that allows you to build. It was originally designed for the purposes of documentation. It comes out of like Facebook, out of Meta. Like it was built there as like an internal docs tool, but it kind of like evolved and became more. And the reason I got interested in was it because it has like a blog component to it, and that mechanism just like works really well. So lots of people use it like for that as well. So I started using like Docusaurus, and although like a personal rule for myself for like many years, I was like, I'll just focus on things that I'm writing about. I won't like fiddle with the mechanism of writing it. Like I couldn't resist it. And I've fiddled with Docusaurus, as it were. I've contributed like a number of things back to Docusaurus. I've written the thing that we're going to talk about today, like plugins for Docusaurus, which are useful, and I use like on my blog.
When I think it makes sense how you came to Docusaurus based on what you're describing. And it also makes sense why you're using Blogspot probably at the very beginning. I feel like we've all gone through that journey where we started in Blogger, or we started in Blogspot, or we started in WordPress, or we started, and then we find that maybe that worked, but maybe it's also where we found something that fits us more personally. And as someone that is an open source contributor, to your point, like, if you have the ability to do pull requests and contribute to the growth of something, that seems to fit who John is, in my opinion. So I think it makes perfect sense why you would land on that as your platform for blogging and brand presence. And once again, very astute, you should own your own brand, because if suddenly Google or WordPress decides to take something up or down, then it doesn't matter because you still own your domain. So I think there's a lot of wonderful aspects to what you just described there. Now, one thing I did want to ask you about with Docusaurus was from a developer side of things or a programming side of things, is there anything that really stood out to say, this is why I should use Docusaurus? Because in my research of it, of course, it's React based. As you mentioned, it was coming out of some of the work that was coming from Meta, which makes sense as React did too. But was there anything that kind of tickled your brain when you're saying, oh, that's why I should be looking at it, particularly other than just the open source nature of, or the temporal usage that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because, like, I was intentionally like not looking. I never planned to do any playing with it at all. Like, my plan was I want to use a thing that will just like allow me to write Markdown. That was my goal. I want to write Markdown, and I want it to be pretty because I can't make things pretty. I don't have that in my wheelhouse. So I need something that will look good, like from default. And this looked good, and it allowed me to write Markdown. And that was the way that that it was set up by default was like super straightforward. Like it's just text files on disk, like in folders. So there's not much to it. Like it technically, like it's probably someone who has like some like engineering smarts is going to be using Docusaurus, but it really you don't need to. Like vanilla, like Docusaurus and just text files, and you're off to the races. You have a website that looks great, that looks presentable, that is easy to maintain. Those are the things that I was looking for. It was kind of a surprise to me that I ended up like digging into it and contributing like back to it.
And I got to tell you, I mean, you can see on my screen, it looks great. It's if this is vanilla Docusaurus, like without a lot of work, it's clean. It's easy to read. And if it makes publishing fantastic for you, then it's a fantastic tool. So I think this is really, really nice. And you can see here, your domain presence is for everybody in case they're like, oh wait, where do I go? Just to make sure we're clear. Everything we're going to be talking about is tied to your domain, which is johnnyreilly.com. So if people are following along or they want to see it in the post, this is where everything's going to be based at. All right. So I'm looking at this. So we've chosen Docusaurus. Markdown, that's something that would be good for us to unpack a little bit. So why was Markdown so important to you in the publishing process? Because obviously, in my opinion, as we've said, Markdown is an easy, fast way to be able to author content because of just the way that it works with HTML. It also makes sure that, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons I like it is it makes sure that things are very modular. Because Markdown is here, it's the same Markdown there. So you can pick it up, move it, it's going to work. So if you ever decided to move things out of Docusaurus for some reason, it's still Markdown. So it's a huge benefit to it. But what was the reasonings why you said, because of Markdown, this is why I chose Docusaurus?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's slightly like two things. And like one of those things is I just like Markdown. Like it's I like it, I know it, and it's simple. And like the other thing is I feel like it was like a Douglas Adams like quote or story or something like that. Like but he was talking about like how like one of the things that like slowed him down in life was like the invention of the word processor. Because he like loved like technical things. And but previously he only had like a typewriter, so he was hammered away on his typewriter, and all he's got is like key presses and ink on paper. That's all he has, like just the keys that he can press. And now he's got like a word processor, and there's all these options in front of him. He can have like line breaks. He can have like which font do you use and what size font, and maybe it'll be bold, and maybe it'll be underlined, and all these just options. Like you're blinded by options, and constraints are actually a really, really useful thing, because they allow you to focus on doing something. And Markdown is constraints. Markdown, like you've got like, you can have text, you can have something like 5 or 6 types of headings, you can have bold, you can have italic, you can have strike through, and like not much more, to be honest. Like there's very little that you can do with that. And it's like a personal rule I had around writing generally was that you want to remove all the things that like distract like from you. You want to just be able to focus on doing the thing that you're doing. And if you have like options, you're gonna explore those options. You're actually going to do the thing that you really wanted to do in the first place. So like Markdown is a great way to make sure that doesn't happen. Like you're working like just on doing the thing that you want to do. And that will hopefully mean that you're productive, right? You're actually writing a blog post rather than thinking about like the way that you write a blog post and the CSS that you can apply to all of these things. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense. I mean, as somebody who has young parents, I'm always a big believer in limiting the amount of choices that I provide to my kids. So like if I wanted them to choose between, let's say, a quesadilla or pizza, I'm only going to give them those two. But I give them like a whole menu, they become overwhelmed. It's actually less than comforting. And then of course, then no decisions are made. So I think to your point, like if you have a limited set of things that are possible, it allows you to focus on the tool and make it really, really good, and focus on, as we said earlier, focus on the content, not the tool, not the tactics. So I think it makes tons of sense why everything is aligning the way that it is. The story is making sense.
Yeah, not only is this a great metaphor for life, but this is also something that, John, you have in common with a lot of developers is go for the easiest, most simple way to do things. And it seems like that's the way that you found Docusaurus, and that might be part of the way that you found Cloudinary. And that seems like that's also the way that you like Markdown.
So, John, I'm interested. So we've talked about Docusaurus, and I'm anticipating there's a world where now you've signed up, you've got everything running with your Docusaurus site. There is a period here, though, Cloudinary is not here yet. So how does Cloudinary get introduced? How does Cloudinary get brought into this overall process?
Yeah. So I'm definitely a fiddler. And so yeah, so I'm always like noodling around on something. And I really like optimizing stuff. Like I really like taking a thing and seeing how I make it like slightly better. Because then it's like better for everyone. And I had my blog going and it was working, it was fine. And Lighthouse scores like was a possibility. So like Lighthouse scores, for those that don't know, it's Lighthouse is all this I think it originally comes out of Google. It's certainly built into Chrome, and it allows you to like evaluate like how your website is doing along with various like metrics. Like it tells you how you're doing for like SEO, it tells you how you're doing for like accessibility, it tells you how you're doing for like performance, and like other things too that I can't always remember. Yeah, of course. And I'd plugged I've been running my Lighthouse against my blog like here and there, and like looking at the numbers. That's quite interesting. And I worked out a way to get Lighthouse running on my blog every time I made a pull request. So actually, I should back up a little bit further. So my blog actually wasn't originally hosted on. I mean, it was originally when I went to Docusaurus, I was using GitHub Pages, which is like the built-in like hosting mechanism that exists on GitHub, and it's great. You get like this free website basically, and I was using that initially, and I really liked it. And then I became aware that like I would make a change, and I'd see that change like locally, but sometimes there might be a difference between like what it was like locally and when it was deployed. And I thought it would be nice to see what it was like deployed before it was deployed. And their Netlify were out there and to offer various like Jamstacky things, and they had like a mechanism called deploy previews, I think. And for a while, I used that, and I really liked it. And what happened with deploy previews was that every time you submitted a pull request, it would automatically generate a new version of your site and put a preview link in one of the comments. And you could click on that. You click on that preview link and you could see your site and you go, oh yeah, okay, it looks like that, it looks like this, works like this, I'm happy or not. And then make a judgment call as to whether you're going to like merge that pull request. And that was like just like a really, really like nice thing. I like that a lot. And like time went by but I wasn't using Netlify to host my thing. I was using GitHub Pages to do it. And I think Netlify was quite expensive. So I landed on using Azure Static Web Apps, which is an offering that comes out of Microsoft and is kind of very similar to lots of the things that like Netlify do. It's basically a static web app. Sorry, I just said that it's.
You're good. You're good. I follow.
It's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? That's what it is, and it's and it works really well. And I started using that, and one of the reasons I started using that was because like worked really well, and I quite liked it. But also it had like the equivalents to Netlify deploy previews, and I can never really remember the name. I think it's called staging environments or something like that. But it's the same deal, right? You change your code, you raise a pull request, and on that pull request, automatically in the background, an environment would be created, and blam, you get the link. You click on it, you can go look at it. It's like great, and now I've got this mechanism that's working, and it's working. I'm hosting using static web apps, and I'm doing deploy previews using static web apps. So I've got these two things like in tandem. And with that in place, like it was like, oh, now extra things are possible now that I've got that in place. And that's when I plugged like Lighthouse in there, and I was immediately dismayed because the numbers were low for my performance. I mean, I was good on like most of the scores, but the performance one I was just like less good at. And this got me thinking about like how can I make those numbers better? Because every time you submit a pull request, you see the numbers, and it's like, oh, I want that to be less orange or less red. I want it to be closer to green. And so yeah, that's the thing that started me sort of like in the direction of like ways to tweak that. And like initially, I was okay, I'm going to like manually like take each image and I'm going to optimize them, which was very, very boring. But I did that for a while, and then I got a mechanism for like making images like someone will optimize. I scripted something which was quite good. But it was I was also getting like, I was getting improved scores, but like not amazing scores. And it then occurred to me that the Cloudinary, which I had used in the past for like different things, was there. Oh no, it wasn't there. So a friend, Howard, damn it, sorry, Howard, copy his name, is behind Azure Weekly, works for Engine, the founders of Engine. He was telling us how they were using Cloudinary for their images for the Engine blog, I think. And that got me thinking, oh wait a minute, I've used that before and for other stuff, and I just got started reading up on it, and the more I read about it, it was very obvious that there was possibly a very straightforward way to plug into it, and well, it felt like there was a possibility there, which I dug into, and that's what ended up with me like starting to use Cloudinary like for my blog.
I love it. And I think that it makes perfect sense, because that is a main reason that people do come to Cloudinary. At least it's one of the main reasons, is that they're looking at ways to optimizing their website, making sure things are loading quickly. And sometimes that is tied to Lighthouse. Sometimes that's tied to Core Web Vitals, essentially indicators that are telling people this is how good the user experience is on your overall page. And by making sure that, you're tweaking, you're trying to get things to go right. But it's also to make sure that when people are going to your blog and reading a post, they want to have an optimal experience. They don't want it where there's something slowly loading through because you decided to put a 3 megabyte image in there and you're not sure why the scores are low. So it allows for that to take place. It absolutely makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'll be on my phone, like on a bus or something sometimes, and I'd like go to my own site to check a thing that I'd like written up. Oh no.
Right. You know that experience. Oh yeah. Everybody's had that experience. Really. You're suddenly surprised about how it was beautiful on the desktop and everything loads so quickly on my amazingly fast internet. And then, you're now out and about and you're like, this is not optimal. So I totally know what you're talking about.
You did this.
And it's your fault. Exactly. I totally know what you're saying.
What's it in you?
Well, okay. So we know the reasoning now. So you have this pain point that's happened. You're saying, okay, I want a better Lighthouse score. I want a better user experience is coming through. So you're seeing Cloudinary as a solution here. What I am very intrigued by is how you went about this, because you created a plugin with Rehype or for Rehype, or I'm not sure exactly the right way to phrase it, but essentially a Rehype plugin that is going about the process and adding all of these to your Cloudinary account, images that you're working with on your Docusaurus side of things, and making sure they're delivered with our CDNs that we work with, and also applying some optimizations too. So how did you start the plugin process? Why did you start the plugin process this way?
Sure. So the reason why I got the idea in the first place was because there's Cloudinary is like a ridiculously nice API for for doing this, which is and you'll probably know the proper name. I don't. Maybe it's called the Fetch API or something like that. But
Yep.
But it's here's the thing: you've got an image URL, and you can just basically prefix your image URL with a Cloudinary CDN something type prefix. That's it. You're done. It works. You when you do that, you get what happens is the request snakes off to Cloudinary, and behind the scenes Cloudinary is going to pick up the image from your site. It's going to optimize it and serve it. And that first time, I'm guessing there's probably some kind of slowness because it's doing that hit for the first time. But after that, you're off to the races. You've got this optimized images going to all of your clients, and it's just fast. And the simplicity of just plugging that in was just really, really attracted me. So because I'd imagined, maybe Howard told me this is how it worked in the first place. But I'd imagined that if I was going to do something like this, what we probably need to do is I'm going to write some kind of script that crawls my blog post, finds all the images. I'm going to have to some kind of mechanism that uploads the images to the thing, and then I'm going to have to go back through the site and I have to change all the references. And I was open to that as an option, incidentally. But it was just turned out to be way simpler. I didn't have to do that. I can just instead like flip a URL and I'm done. So the simplicity of like knowing that I could do that made me start like fiddling with like Docusaurus and looking into like, is it possible that I can do that? It's like, I don't think I necessarily knew at that point how that portion of Docusaurus like works. Like I knew that you could put in Markdown this side and out this side comes like HTML. I wasn't totally sure like what was in between. And like as I had a little like read around and like and chatted to the people who work on the project a bit, like it turns out that it's kind of like this, and I might get this in the wrong order. I'll try not to. Docusaurus takes Markdown and it uses a mechanism called remark plugins, and that converts that takes the Markdown, I think, and converts. Sorry, it takes the Markdown and converts it into HTML, I think, and then or JSX as well. And then you've got that, and you've got these two places that like the remark step and the rehype step, and in both places you've got the ability to like hook in. And Docusaurus like allows, like it exposes those hook points, as it were, and in fact it uses those itself to build itself. And so exactly that. And so I was looking at this, like I was like, so I've got this like remark like hook in place, and I've got this like rehype hook in place. I wonder if I can use this. And like the initial thought was like, okay, well, maybe I'd do it with like remark, because that's where my images are, and it's like super simple to go with. But actually, it turned out that the rehype was the like the more obvious choice, because that's like closer to the image generation point of view. Because like don't want to jump too far ahead. So the way that you ended up handling like the images is that you end up with this. I'm probably going to get into the code. You end up with like walking through every like node inside the HTML, every like tag, HTML tag, whatever it is that comes through. And some of those are like image tags, which are obviously images. But some of those are JSX tags, and those JSX tags are like React things. And inside the JSX, you have to do a little bit of like parsing inside there to discover like the image that sits inside the JSX, and you have to swap it there as well as in the image things. So you've got like two places where you've got to do the swapping, and because Docusaurus like it allows you to do like Markdown, but also if you want to break out and do something like JSX, you're fine. You can do that too. Like this mechanism made more sense in the context of like Rehype, because it would cater for both mechanisms, I think. So I think regardless of whether you're using Markdown or JSX, I think both of these things ends up playing through that.
Which is fantastic. And I mean, the end result, as you can see here, so this is the title image of the post that went through this, and you can see some of the things that you talked about. Like if you look at the overall URL that was generated from Cloudinary, you can see it is using that fetch method here.
Yes.
And what you would see, like, let's say you just had uploaded this to your Cloudinary account, of course, that would say upload in this case. So it's really tied to the overall delivery. So this is fetch delivery that we're showing you here. So to your point, it exists somewhere else, and then we're porting it through with fetch. So that way, then we're able to apply all the various transformations, and you can see exactly where it was coming from in the first place, which is from your domain, the assets images. This is your title, and to be rerouted to Cloudinary, and then of course delivered through Cloudinary in this overall process. So, and this is all done through the magic of the plugin that you did, which is fantastic, because as we're big believers of, Jen can attest to this, we're big believers of you should set it and forget it, meaning that you should allow all the automation, all of the behind the scenes to do the behind the scenes stuff. And this is doing that, where when you publish something to your overall presence via Docusaurus, it makes sure it's doing all of this work behind the scenes for you. So this is great to see.
Yeah. I think the image that you're looking at there, Sam, like that's a PNG, I think. And I think that one of the things that you get with Cloudinary, one of the things that I quite liked about it was that it would take your PNG and it would turn it into something that was like more optimal for the clients. Like it may possibly even does it depending on the type of client. I'm not even sure. But like,
yeah.
Well,
and very astute what you're showing here. So let me see if I can show my screen on that real fast, because you're dead on. So what we are showing you here is, I'm going to quickly bring over a little bit of a behind the scenes here. So you can see in this case, this is using what we call Cloudinary's Media Optimizer, or not about it, Inspector, Cloudinary Media Inspector. And it's just a quick Chrome tab that I can be able to click on. So I pull this up and it gives me all these details. And as you can see here, yes, you're serving this as a PNG originally, where this is a PNG originally. And Cloudinary is serving this as an AVIF, which is an AVIF file, which is pretty cutting edge stuff. But Chrome can deliver that. And the reason why that's happening is, of course, this little guy right here, fauto, which is indicating automatic format. So what it's saying is serve it through our server here. So you can see it's choosing Fastly in this case. So it's coming from the Fastly CDN. And in this situation, then it's coming through as an AVIF. And if we just do a little bit of comparison than ever before, I am 100% sure that our PNG originally is much larger than the 17.82 kilobytes that is being served as today, thanks to fauto. And as you can see, if someone knows Cloudinary transformations the way that me and Jen do, maybe not, but it is to say that there's no resizing happening. This is the original size of the image. You're not cropping it. You're not changing the width. You're not changing the height. So essentially you're taking an original image and you're saying, all I'm doing is applying the fauto, the qauto. There is a wauto that's here. So that's meant for resizing purposes in responsive situation, but we're serving this image as is against my size. So it's just serving it as its original. There's no changes there. And same situation with DPR is going to be dependent there, but it is ultimately to say a lot of optimization is happening just with this transformation set you have. And then it's not even where you had to upload them all to a new location and do a migration. Everything's kept with your John Reilly overall space. So everything can still live within your domains and your overall path that you have of assets, images there. So a lot of good things are happening right here behind the scenes.
And just to add to something Sam said, the image is actually a smaller byte size, but it's not like made to be visually smaller.
Right.
So yeah, it's optimized. But I have a question for you, John. So basically, as we know, Cloudinary is going to fetch the image from the original source and serve it to you. And in this case, as we've just looked at, optimized, but happen to know something about you, something that you've said in another blog, which is that you're more of a fetch guy. You're a self-proclaimed fetch guy. So you like fetch. So this is, you said this in a blog just about a month ago, another blog about Cloudinary, where you were comparing to someone else's blog and you wanted to be able to do it with the fetch.
Possibly,
like,
yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, very, very possibly. Do you know which post it was?
Yeah, I do. So it is, let me find it here. It's uploading images to Cloudinary with fetch.
Yeah.
It wasn't as recently. It was actually a while ago, but it was in March, a couple of years ago.
This was I get the name confused. Yeah, so this was the first time that I used Cloudinary, I think, for that one.
Yes.
And that one, it was some years ago actually. With that one, I was using the Fetch API in the browser to upload. So yeah, it was I was using the Fetch API in the browser to do an upload to and I think maybe even when I wrote that post, like the Fetch API was still felt relatively new or something. Like it hasn't been around for like forever, as it were. I do so yeah. So prior to like Fetch, there was the XML, HTTP, what's it thing, horrible.
Okay.
Fetch is just a very nice API. But yeah, I don't know if the Fetch in Cloudinary like has like a relationship to the Fetch in the browser APIs or not, or it may be that they are related things or they're different things. I don't know, with similar names.
Well, the reason I ask is because we don't see people use Cloudinary in various ways, but the way that you're using it is very fetch specific. And when we get into the code in just a moment, we'll see that you hard coded in that it's a fetch, and that's part of. So I was going to ask, is part of the reason you chose Cloudinary because you wanted to be able to fetch the images, or is that just like kind of the way you started using Cloudinary and that's how you always thought of Cloudinary?
Oh no, it's more like because like I'd imagined when I was thinking about this in the first place that I would probably be using the Fetch API in the browser to do uploads like to Cloudinary, or have some kind of like script that would be doing it. But the thing that would vaguely niggle / worry me about that is like, what if I failed to upload something like properly? And
Yeah.
the idea of it not being my responsibility, I just hand it over to like Cloud and say, hey, you go find it for me. Like that meant that, like I thought, I thought Cloudinary would probably do a better job of that than I would necessarily. So I had like greater trust in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, let's take a look at the code and see how you made this all work.
Sure. Shall I share my screen?
Yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely.
Cool. Let me know if I need to change sizes, and I will certainly do that.
Sure.
Share screen. Okay. So,
All right.
hopefully,
are.
you can see my screen here, and this is this here is the where we so all Docusaurus sites have like a Docusaurus config file, which is like, just as the name suggests, the way that you configure it. And so we've started here inside my blog, and we're importing the plugin that I ended up publishing to do this. In actual fact, if we look at the like the website itself, you'll see that it started out slightly differently. But shall I show you the code of the plug? So I ended up publishing a plugin, but before I did that, I had this like an inline file that sat like inside the blog post before I was like certain this is like a useful thing. And I've got like a one like that in place right now. So this is a different Rehype plugin that I wrote that just lives like locally inside my blog. And a thing you can see that's significant about this uses JS which is like TypeScript, but in the form of like JavaScript comments. And the code looks slightly different. So you'll see down at the bottom, we've got like a module exports, and you'll see that we're using these funky comment things, which have like types hidden inside them. But this is actually like vanilla JavaScript. And that's how the plugin started out. If you look at the blog post that is associated with this, you'll see, if I tab over to this guy here, you'll see inside here that I'm like, this is what I'm building here. This is like a JSX. This is that. But when it came to deciding that the thing that I'd written in the context of a blog post was like, okay, this is a useful thing, I flipped over and I decided to use to write a plugin and publish that plugin. So let me go back to here, and actually let's do it inside Chrome itself. So if I go to the plugin here, and I'm definitely going to change the size on this because this is not going to be big enough for you. So it's plus that.
There you go.
And it's mega simple. It's like one file, like this guy here. Actually, a couple of files, etc. Index.ts, like here's the root. Obviously, there's like not much in there. Not very exciting. Otherwise, is this big enough for you before I start talking?
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks great.
Awesome. Cool. So the actual like guts of it, tests, yay. Inside the plugin here, we import a type, our image or JSX node data. But the actual like guts of it is this. So this is what's called a transformer, a Rehype transformer. And this thing is exercised again and again as Docusaurus like walks the tree of your nodes, basically. And so this code here like invokes a cloud name, and this cloud name, by the way, is that's kind of like the name of your account on Cloudinary. So in my case, it is Priyu, which happens to be my mother-in-law's maiden name. For reasons, and the base URL of your website. So in my case, that's johnnyreilly.com. And then every time it comes through, it exercises this visit mechanism for our little visitor down here. So you see, we're creating, we've got a visitor factory here, which we make our visitor, and then we invoke that visitor on each of the elements that comes through. And we're interested in like a subset of things being potentially transformed. So we want elements to be transformed, and that's like, like an image tag or a paragraph tag or something like that. Obviously, we're interested in transforming the images, but we'll filter down to that later on. And JSX also. So these are the two things that we're going to play with. So now we get to the actual like where things like happen. So here's the This is the factory that we invoked above, and this is the thing that it makes. And it makes this visitor. So the visitor is going to be hit like again and again and again with a different node each time. And it's going to look at that node and it's going to say, well, okay, if you're an element, and if you're an image and you've got some properties, then we're kind of interested in doing something with you. Okay. So this is like, this is the equivalent of like, a typical, open angle bracket. Is it? No. It's an image tag.
Yes.
And I can never remember, which one it is.
You're good.
Thank you. So it looks at this image tag that it's got, and it says, okay, here's the SRC, the URL basically of the image. And we're going to take that, and you can see how simple like using like Cloudinary is here. Because all I'm doing is I'm literally hard coding here, rescloudinary.com cloud name, in my case, Priyu, on the maiden name. And here's the transformations that are applied, and then the URL of the image itself. So it's just string concatenation. Like it's no more than that. Like it's way simple. And this is what happens for image tags. And it's kind of the same thing that happens for JSX. It just looks a little bit nastier because JSX is a little bit more complicated. So if we step down here, we're going to see the same thing happen, but essentially, whereas we're dealing with a nice, clean sort of like structure here, it's just like type elements, tag name, image, property source. Inside here, we end up with like a type of JSX, and inside here, here's what the thing actually looks like. There's like lots of things in there. So we end up doing a little bit of like regex to work out like where the image is inside there. And if we find a match, then we just update. We do like node value replace, and we replace the source thing that we've looked up with again the same thing here. So we've got the same thing that we're doing here down here. It's just a little bit like noisier because it's in the context of JSX. But like, don't think about that too much. It's just string concatenation. That's all that's happening. And this is like, that's the end of the code, really.
Very, very eloquent. And I mean, it's very understandable what you're doing here, because now you're bringing in the cloud name, which of course is your variable. You have your base URL, which is your variable. Everything else, Jen, to your point, you're hard coded in the resource type. It's always going to be an image. You're always going to be fetching it. You're always going to apply these transformations. So there's no reason for any of that to be variables in any way. So it's a pretty sustainable process. I mean, unless for some reason we stop doing F-auto, which I can't imagine a world where that happens, then this is absolutely feature proof too. So this is great.
Yeah. And it's been like zero maintenance for me in terms of so I maintain like a whole host of like open source projects, and many of them require like a fair amount of like ongoing maintenance to keep them like up and running. This thing, like I built it, I created it off the back of like Josh Goldberg's template TypeScript like thing. So I didn't have to think about that too much. And like, I kind of haven't changed it that much since. Like it's just there. It just works. It's really nice. I mean, I've written some tests for it, which, just to like, just so I felt better about myself, but like, it's, I haven't done too much.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do the same thing in a much more complicated way. So hats off to you for figuring out a really straightforward way to do this. So I wanted to ask you about, so as Sam said, you have hard-coded in image. Have you tried any other type, video, or are you really not using video on your blog? So it's not necessary?
That's interesting. So I didn't know that you did anything with video. And I do have some videos on my site. So if you go to my blog, you'll see like a small number of like talks that I've done. But there's not tons of them, and they're all on YouTube. I don't know if that would have bearing on it. Yeah, but like, I don't do tons with video at the moment. So yeah, not really. But what do you do with video then? Like, do you have the equivalent of like a CDN for YouTube or,
This is a really fun, I was going to say that Sam can go into it more, but the really short and fun answer to what do you do with video is pretty much everything we do with images. So that's like a fun one sentence answer.
Absolutely. And Jen's right about that. Like a good example is like those transformations that you're applying to the images, like F-auto, Q-auto, W-auto. Those are all things we do for our overall videos too. So as an example, let's say that you're serving something as a MP4, but we see that it would be better as a WebM based on what that happens to be.
Oh,
So
sure.
there's things like that. Same thing with the quality side. There's all sorts of fun things you can do. But a good example of why it would make sense for you to possibly use here. And I'm sorry to point this out, John. Is this little guy here, this video unavailable, watch on YouTube situation from the TypeScript London product, because I have to physically click in and go to it. And if you were to say, oh, great, I always have it, delivered from all the CDNs that Cloudinary uses, it's reliable, it's dependable, it's using their video player. It would prevent that from happening. Of course, you could always put a link there saying also watch it on YouTube, because some people prefer that. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is to say it's something that's there. So anyway, long story short, images and video are possible with Cloudinary, for sure.
By the way, if there are any YouTubers like watching, I'm pretty sure that we're looking at like a bug on YouTube. Like when I was embedding these things here, like I decided to use the privacy protecting option, which is like YouTube without cookies. If you look at the source of this thing, it's like YouTube without cookies. And I think if I use the YouTube with cookies, then like that wouldn't happen. But I don't know.
It's all good. It's all good. But it is to say, no matter
bothers me. But
absolutely fine. So going back to the plugin. So now that we've seen the overall process that's taking place within the plugin, what I'd love to be able to walk through, if I can understand it correctly, is really when it comes to the authoring and publication process. Because you're writing these blog posts, as we've talked about, set it, forget it. What does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, sure. So probably the easiest way to do that is, remember back earlier on, we were talking about like pull request previews. So if I write like a blog post, like that ends up being a pull request. And so like in this case, I've just raised a pull request with just like a marginal change that I think I've tweaked the README file or something like that. But what you get off the back of that is this thing here. And actually, before we dive off to that, let's have a quick look at what the code for this looks like. So I want you to see just how simple it is to author a blog using like Docusaurus. It's just way easy. So here's the blog website in a blog folder, and you can see I've been blogging for quite a long time. But yeah, any one of these folders is a blog post, and I thought I'd open up the one which is related to where is it? No, this one. Hey, found it. I did unboxing day. So this is the blog post that we're looking at that I wrote in the first place, and all it is this markdown file here. And there's a little, you get a little front matter thing at the top, this thing here, which is just like has some like metadata basically around the blog post, author, tags, that kind of thing. And you have the images that sit in the same folder. So these things, weird. So these images sit alongside here, and they're there, and they work. And when you do the pull request, it spins up the version of the websites for you and gives you a link, which I've got just here. And I happen to have opened this up like previously. And if we go to this page here, you'll see here's my delightful GUID featuring URL. But this is the preview of the website, and this is the actual websites. And you see they look like identical, right?
Yep.
But they're actually not exactly the same thing, because this guy here, the pull request preview, doesn't use Cloudinary. The actual website does use Cloudinary. And the way that you can see that is like mega simple. And I don't know how this is. If I need to zoom, then like do tell me. If I'm going to hit inspect on this particular image, and let's see if I can make this bignify this. I think you can do Command plus inside here. Let's find out. Hey, so you can see. I can make it. It's plus. There's an art for this. I haven't quite learned. So here's our image. This is our little title image there, hero image, if you like. And a couple of things to notice about it. The most important one being the source. So like it's using a local image. This thing here, you can see it comes from this domain, from the same domain that it's as the website lives on, and it's just this PNG not much to say about it. It's also like worth noting for just anyways that it's got loading eager and fetch priority high. Those are just little cues that you can give to like to the browser, so that it makes sure that it loads this image like fast, which gives you like better performance for like core web vitals and whatnot.
Mhm.
But significantly, you've got the image here, and it's a local image. So if we now hold that in mind, and actually maybe hold the file size in mind. So it says it's like 28K there. I'm guessing that's going to be something different when we go to the other one. So we go to here and do the same thing and do inspect. And again, let's see if I can, let's just remember where I am. That's delightful. So now if we look at the SRC attribute, you'll see it's slightly different, right? So
Right.
the SRC attribute is it's got Cloudinary prefixed in there, and the my mother-in-law's maiden name, and the various modifiers, and behind that the image. And so it's not coming from my blog at all. This is coming from Cloudinary. And if you look at the file size, it's this is 18K. So compared to the other one, I think it was like around 28, 30K, something like that. So like it's about like 2/3 of the size. So you're getting benefit there also. So yeah, there's kind of like dual benefit here. Like one of which is like there's limitations like in the browser. I think there may actually be like less extreme these days. There's limitations in the browser, like the number of resources that you can get from a single website at a single time. Like it's bounded. But you can go to other websites at the same time, different domains, and you can get from them. And that's what we're doing here. But we're also getting the image which is optimized, so it's going to be loading faster. And I would also like, given that like Cloudinary is like raison d'etre is like images and also videos, it turns out, like it's going to be fast, right? Like so you're going to get that perf gain too. So like that's how it works. Like if you compare this to this, like the only difference is the URL.
And I would think maybe in terms of how this is also set up, let's say for some reason you're bringing over your markdown to a different spot and it's not going to pull from the Cloudinary image. You always still have the base as a backup, or essentially as a fallback mechanisms too. So I think there's just a lot of reassurance in using a plugin like this too.
Like I really liked like, because like, you know, when you're adopting like anything new, you're like you want to like cover your back just in case something goes wrong. Like the idea that like I could just turn it off and like it still works. Like that was really like reassuring to me. It wasn't like I was moving all the way from here to here, and I was gonna have to like I was gonna have to do that on an ongoing basis, or to make sure the thing synced up or anything like that. I don't have to do any of that. Like it works. And if for some reason like I decide I don't want to use this anymore or something, or like I can just turn it off, and I will still have like a mechanism that works. It's just unplugging the plug in, I guess.
And one thing that I want to unpackage also is the concept of Open Graph, because I've seen Open Graph so well with your overall site, and Cloudinary is part of that too, because the way that at least it seems to me that you're doing your Open Graph tags, as we can see here with like the way that Facebook and Twitter and other sites are interpreting it, is that whatever you're defining as like your header or hero image that you have for your blog post, it's going to be associating that. But if we even take a look at like, this is just a generic Open Graph site that's interpreting this, so opengraph.xyz, you'll see that with the meta tags that it's coming back with, saying this is how it's all working, you can see it's coming back with the Cloudinary version right here with all the optimizations tied to it. So it is to say that this has lots of ancillary effects when you're not only authoring content, imparting an insight experience, but also when you're doing your promotions and telling people that you wrote a new post, or you're sharing it on Slack with coworkers, or whatever it happens to be. So there's a lot of benefits there too.
Yeah, like I Open Graph was like this mystery to me. Like for the longest time, like I started seeing like, you know, you paste a link somewhere, and this image would appear next to it, and I was like, how's that happening? It was some kind of some magic. I understand. And it's like obviously it wasn't magic. Like there was something behind it. It turned out to be this thing called the Open Graph like protocol, which I ended up like writing about. But like significantly, it was like it's just like these meta tags that sit inside like websites, and those things there like allow like I think you've got a phrase, something browsers, mini browsers, something like that.
Micro browsers.
Thank you. It's like micro browsers like Slack and like Teams and all these other things. They can use this to like interrogate like the site, and they can use you to generate kind of like a preview of what's there, so that you don't have to. So people don't actually have to like do the immediate work of like clicking on something to go there to find out what's there. They've got like some kind of clue that tells them like, here's what's there. And like Docusaurus had this built in already. So if I do again, like,
here, let me stop sharing so you can share yours, John, here. There you go.
Oh, sure. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize it. Okay. So if I do inspect, and if I roll up to the header, so inside here, you'll see we're interested in OG stuff.
I saw the Twitter card above if you scroll back up.
Okay.
And so you see where.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Twitter card. Yeah. So, yep. And if I do OG image, there we go. So this property here is the thing that drives like the image that pops up. And I think there's other like meta things to say there. Yes, the description and the title, all that kind of stuff. I wanted to use the I wanted to do those, and so sorry, lost coherence there.
I apologize.
Cool.
No, but it makes sense, and also the way that you're replacing it, because now you're saying replace this image with one that's going to be fetched from Cloudinary. It also makes sure that that's working perfectly for the meta side of things too. So I think it's an amazing example of how to weave it all together. And one thing that I'm really inspired by what you've done here, John, because as we said at the very beginning, you're an open source guy. Mm-hmm. And if I go into your GitHub repos, I can literally see every single blog post, all the markdown, it's there. So if I want to do a pull request on your blog, I can. Yeah. That's really cool. That's really, really cool. So it's back to like, you're picking up what you're putting down. You're practicing what you preach. So John, that's fantastic. Thank you.
And another thing is, you've made this Rehype Cloudinary Docusaurus plugin, and it's on NPM, so anyone can find this. Mm-hmm. So if you have the latest version of NPM, you can just install it. It's that easy. Like that concept will never not blow my mind. But part of being an open source developer, like you are, is you've shared this. So you've weaved this all together. We've just discussed it in this episode, and now you've let other people use this too. So you're really doing the good work there, John. Everyone should be very grateful, and I know I am.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and to back up everything that we just said here, of course, you can always just go to your GitHub. So that's going to be github.com/Johnny Reilly, same as the domain. And you can access all of this stuff, including the Rehype plugin, and start using it on your Docusaurus side of things. So if you are using Docusaurus, if you're investigating Rehype, if you like Markdown, there's a lot of things that you can ultimately apply for this, because it's not necessarily where the things that you've done here have to only work for Docusaurus. It's meant for Docusaurus purposes. There's a lot of learnings that work for other things too. It's Markdown based or Rehype based in some way. So this is exciting. This is really, really exciting. So John, final takeaways, anything else that we've talked about with the project that we maybe neglected or didn't talk about, or anything you just want to summarize it in a nice, tidy way? What do you got for us?
We'll see. Yeah, just that there's a few like things that are worth plugging in as well when you're using this. It's called pre-connect, little like browser queues in there that you can do, and that lets the browser know that your stuff is you should go off and you should start fetching this stuff from Cloudinary faster than you would otherwise do. These kind of things can make a slight difference to speed things up as well. But yeah, anyone who wants to play with this, I'd recommend just having a go, because it's mega easy to use, and there's no commitment to it either. If you don't like it, you can unplug it. It's really it's an easy on ramp and it's an easy off ramp, which is think anything that I'm attracted to things that have easy on ramps and easy off ramps. But TypeScript actually, back when I was using it for the first time, one of the attractions was that it was very easy to get started, and also you could say, hey, we just JavaScript, we can fail, and that was the thing that would get people over the line. Yeah, okay, I'll try it, but we could escape.
I love it. I love it so much. And so, of course, to plug your blog post, of course, everything we've covered here plus more is going to be found on your blog. So people, hopefully, if they take the time to read it, to come to check out all the work you've done on Docusaurus. And of course, as we mentioned, that's going to be at johnnyreilly.com. So, John, this has been fantastic. So thank you for being a part of the program, and we hope to see more of what you're doing, maybe some video. So that'll be exciting. Thank you again.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
So Jen, key takeaways. What do you feel here? We covered a ton here, but what's standing out for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. One of the main things is how helpful developers are to other developers. No, John didn't have somebody asking him to do this, and he didn't have, some company or some boss saying like, hey, you really need to optimize your site. He wanted to get that better Lighthouse score. He wanted to optimize. And even you could see during the podcast when something wasn't working, he said, oh, that bothers me. That bothers me about the YouTube potential bug. And it's really, a lot of the reasons people come to Cloudinary is because they just want to make things better. And I don't know, I'm just inspired. And the reason he made this plugin and shared it with other people to use is because he wants to make their lives easier. He tinkered, he figured it out. He's giving everyone a solution. So kind of like a feel good episode for me, for sure. And yeah, I mean, lots of other takeaways. Another big one for me is you only know what you know. Right. So in this case, John didn't happen to know, as anybody doesn't know everything about what a product can offer. He didn't happen to know that we work with video, but through coming on this podcast, he found that out. Maybe he'll use that. And in the same way that through writing his blog, we had Rebecca Peltz reach out and let him know about FAutoQAuto. Now he's using that. And that was a big thing we talked about in this blog, which we were already interested in before he was applying FAutoQAuto. So I mean, there's so many good takeaways. How about you, Sam?
I'm just going to echo it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So you did a ton of stuff here. I agree with all of it. And I think that this has been an amazing episode for someone that is trying to create a true experience for their overall brand in a lightweight way, especially if you're migrating from some of the sources that we mentioned at the very beginning of the program, like Blogger or other blogging software. It's a great place to be at. And as we showed, Docusaurus is becoming a very, very widely used tool, or at least it's widely used within certain spheres. So I'm excited to see if it helps with overall adoption, with the great work that John's doing to help people to be able to see the power of all of these platforms together when it comes to content authoring and delivery. So it's exciting.
Yeah, agree.
So to summarize all of this, if you want to be part of more of these podcasts that we are showing you here, of course, they're all going to be at cloudinary.com/podcasts. That's where you can see all previous episodes of DevJams. And the nice thing, of course, is that if you are a Spotify person or you're an Apple Podcast person or Google, you can see all the previous episodes there. We have them all linked inside that case. And of course, all the transcripts, all the details are happening to be right there as well. So you can follow along at your leisure. And don't forget, we also have an amazing community at community.cloudinary.com. And that's where you can be a part of all the conversations that are taking place in our overall community. And if you're also a Discord person, great. We also have an associated Discord server for you to continue the conversations as well. And lastly, to help John plug his stuff, go ahead and check out Docusaurus. That's going to be at docusaurus.io. And of course, John's personal blog post with lots of great material, not just about Cloudinary, but about many things at johnnyreilly.com. So on behalf of everybody at Cloudinary, so from me and Jen to you, thank you for being a part of this DevJams episode, and we can't wait to see you at future ones. So take care and have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon.